Hello and welcome everyone to the Successful Community Partnerships Through Intentional Outreach webinar. My name's Beth Yates. I am the Children's Consultant from the Indiana State Library's Professional Development Office. I'll be your host and question moderator for today. And our presenter today is Katie Reineke, the Community Outreach Manager for the Evansville Vanderburgh Public Library. A couple of other announcements for you today. It's first of all, to register for other webinars or other trainings available from the Professional Development Office, please see the Indiana State Library's events calendar, which can be found on our website at www.in.gov/library, and then it's under Services for Libraries. This session is 1 hour, so you're eligible to receive 1 LEU for this presentation. If you're watching this as a recording in the future, instructions on how to obtain your LEU will be in the video's description on YouTube, or you can also find those instructions on the State Library's continuing education site under LEU policies. But in short, when you watch a recording, someone in administration at your library should create the certificate for you, as they're the ones who can verify that you watched. Okay, I think we're ready to get started. Again, our presenter today is Katie Reineke of the Evansville Vanderburgh Public Library. Please take it away, Katie.
Thank you so much, Beth, and I am very excited to be here to share with you all today. As she said, I am the Community Outreach Manager for the Evansville Vanderburgh Public Library, also known as EVPL. And essentially what I do in my role is I oversee and plan all of the outreach efforts of EVPL, both through our small team of 6 and the work of our location staff as well. As some of you said, you are parts of single branch entities, and some of you are part of larger branch entities, but I believe I have plenty to share with all shapes and sizes. So let's get started. So a little bit about EVPL. We are located in the southern tip of Indiana, and we are comprised of 8 locations. We serve about 180,000 residents. And we have a passionate staff who enjoy programming and connecting with our community. So we are very fortunate to have the support of our staff throughout all of our locations to participate in outreach efforts. It hasn't always been that way, but I'll go into a little bit more detail. But please don't be turned off by the fact that I do have a lot of support through our efforts, but that doesn't mean that you can't make a big difference even if you just are one outreach staff member. So the mission of EVPL is we cultivate curiosity by creating wonder, and our vision is communities united through shared exploration and understanding. And I absolutely love these statements. I always have, ever since we first announced them. They have carried over either 2 or 3 times through our different strategic plans. So they're doing the job. And some of the things I love about them are that they're very conceptual, but they're simple. And being both conceptual and simple, it allows them to be ambiguous enough that we can be creative and flexible with our services and programming. And it's reflective of our community. Our community is very diverse in their interests and their needs and who they are, where they come from. So it allows us to shift, and it allows us to evolve with it. And it also gives us the ability to craft our own departmental mission so that we can have direction, and we can make the direction that is necessary in order to advance our EVPL mission. So our outreach department is 4 years old, and I have been managing it since its inception. So I have had the ability to see it grow and build over the past few years, but we are still building and we are still growing. So a lot of what I have to share with you today is what I have personally witnessed and what I have built, but also, lessons learned. So our outreach department is bringing, so our mission, as I have there at the bottom, our mission is dedicated to bringing the library outside the walls of our 8 locations. And the way we do that is many, many, many different ways, but it also allows us to emphasize where in our community people experience barriers to traditional library services. Whether that is through going and coming into our physical locations, or whether that is accessing our digital resources or our resources on our website. Um, Barriers come in many different shapes and forms, and some of them may be perceived, some of them may be very real, but regardless, they all have importance and they all need to be considered. So some of the barriers that we consider when we're looking at where we want to reach out are location. So if there's not a lot of accessibility from where they live to a tradition or to a library location, we look at that. We also look at internet access. We actually have areas in our community where we have 25%, only 25% of our residents have reliable internet access. So that's something that is that we have to really consider when looking. Other things that we look at are income. Um, let's see, what else? High crime, just other various factors that indicate or to tell a story about the community that means that they may be missing out on some of the resources that we have to offer, and those are worth considering. So moving on, I want to touch base on some of the criteria that we have determined over the past few years that we recognize as being integral to successful partnerships. So we recognize that sometimes it can be very alluring to want to answer all of the needs of our community. We want to have all the answers, right? We're librarians, that's what we do. And we're passionate and we're servants. So it can be very easy to want to have all the answers. And at times, this can create scope creep, or it essentially reaches outside the limits of what our library has said our mission is and what our focus is. So the first criteria that we consider whenever we are looking at going into a partnership with another organization is that it supports the missions of both or all of the organizations involved. Hold on. There are my notes. So we want to keep in mind those respective missions during the building of the partnership, because if we do that, if we keep our missions at the forefront of the building process, we can ensure shared success over time. If we have the inclination to want to, so I'll give an example. We have a button maker, like many libraries do, and when we first got it several years ago, it was a big hit with kids at events, and so we said, "Ooh, easy win." Easy win. We're going to take this button maker to a lot of our events. And there is validity in something like that because it gives us an opportunity, especially at family events targeted at families. It gives us the opportunity to distract the child with the button making, teach them simple STEM, but also it gives us time to talk to the parent while while they are making the button, and we can tell them all of the relevant information and maybe even send them up for a library card if you have that ability. So there are great aspects to button making, but we got too hyper focused on creating that wonder that the button maker makes that we started using it too much and in places that it really didn't fit the scope. Or it became so ubiquitous that people equated library there, oh, buttons are going to be there. So we lost all of the other value and all of the other resources because it just became ubiquitous. So again, button makers are great. Don't think I don't like button makers. We still use them a lot, but it's important to look and go, okay, how are button makers supporting our mission? And in this specific partnership, is it really tying together these two organizations in a way that ensures success? The second criteria is looking at having clear and documented expectations of each organization's contribution. So when we came, I'll use an example of a couple of years ago, we had a great partnership with a community organization that had an after-school program during the summer. And we wanted to come and provide after-school programming or summer programming uh, for a period of time throughout those weeks. And it was a great partnership. The community partner absolutely loved us. They were very excited for what we had to contribute. But when we came together to actually execute the program, our partner organization had different expectations to what we were bringing to the table. They basically thought we were going to come in and take care of it all. And while that's great, they just kind of dropped the kids and moved on. And there were several instances where we were left alone with the children. And that poses several safety issues for all involved. So fortunately, after that first day when we were there and we witnessed this happening, we were able to come back together and clarify that this was a very important expectation. And our partner was able to pivot and correct it going forward. But if we had had clear documentation that said, at no point are library staff to be left alone, and at least such and such individuals from the partner organization are expected to be present at all times, if we had had that documentation, that instance might have been avoided. It also saves our butts sometimes. So if our partner has this grandiose vision of what we're bringing to the table, and they have, just beautiful, we're going to just wow everybody. But all we're going to do is, let's say, do a presentation on a new resource that we have. If we don't write that out and communicate that, it can be hard to live up to those expectations that were put in the minds of our partner organizations. So having these clear expectations will give them a better idea of how we are going to show up. It also gives us something to fall back on if our partner is failing to accomplish the expectations that were agreed to. So let's say, we'll use the same example earlier. If we had it written that at no point were we to be left alone with the students, and they continued to leave us alone with the students, we could fall back on that agreement and say, part of your expectations and what you agreed upon were that you were going to have a certain number of individuals in the space. And since you have failed to do that, unfortunately, due to safety precautions, we're going to have to suspend this program. It's not the best case scenario, but sometimes it is what has to happen. Another example is we at EVPL have something called Materials to You, where we have a rotating collection of age-appropriate materials that we take to early learning facilities, daycares, preschools, that kind of thing. And they have a selection of books to use for their students. And each month we switch it out. So we have an agreement as part of that, that if there is a certain number of lost or damaged items over a certain threshold, they are expected to pay down or we will pause the program. We recognize that daycares and littles love books, and sometimes they love them a little too hard, and things might get damaged or things might go missing. So what we do is we say, okay, we're willing to forgive this amount each year of materials that can go lost or damaged. And each year we will forgive that. If it goes over that, there's an expectation that they need to pay. So having that written and having that expectation right there at the forefront gives the partner organization the ability to say, can we accommodate that? Or, man, my kids are so rambunctious, I don't know if they'd be able to handle and respect the books to the degree, and we'd just lose too many items. Sometimes that's the situation. Sometimes we have had, and thankfully we've only had to suspend two facilities and two partnerships because too many items were lost. So, oh, I do see a question in the chat. Do you have a form for setting the expectations, or is this customized per organization? We do have a template but it is very overarching and it is very general. Essentially, what it is, and I can share it later, actually, that might be a better way. So when I go to documents, I will bring that up and share it with you. And then finally, the last criteria is that it's replicable within the organization's capacity, within your capacity. So this is important because when looking at the size and the spread of your abilities within your role and how far you can take something, you want to look at that when signing up for something. So if we're talking about one-off things, that's one thing. But if you're talking about an actual program that you want to be able to offer to other facilities that may be interested in this, you want to consider whether you have the capacity to do that. Let's say you offer an outstanding program at one facility and word gets around to the other facilities that this was an awesome thing that they now want. You want to make sure that you're able to replicate that, to have the capacity to offer it to any facility in your service area that may want it. And this can be difficult at times. I'm not going to lie. There have been times where we have fallen in this trap and we have seen the joy and the wonder that has been created by this program. And we want to just keep doing it. But within our capacity, we weren't able to replicate it to everybody that wanted it. And the reason this is important because if you just continue to say yes, 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 but you build something that isn't replicable, you're actually going to end up saying no in the long run more often and disappointing more people. So I am going to pause right there before I move on, because I threw a lot at you just now. So do we have any questions or comments?
So I have not noticed any other
Okay.
than the one from about the form.
Awesome.
Although, please, if you have them and they're stewing in your brains, go ahead and put them in the comments.
Great.
And we'll get them answered.
All right, then we will move on to the next. So this is where I get to have a lot of fun and tell you about some of the success stories that we have had in the past here at EVPL using the previous criteria I mentioned. So the first one I want to talk about is Book and Cook. And this is a collaborative effort by 3 different organizations. And it's a series of cooking classes. And essentially, students receive a book, they receive a recipe, and they receive all of the supplies needed to create a recipe. And the ultimate intent of this effort is to promote both reading and food literacy. So this is a partnership between 3 organizations: EVPL, Urban Seeds, which is a nonprofit based in our area, which supports the development of stronger regional food systems. So they work with our local farmers, they work with organizations to expand food literacy and food justice. They're a fabulous organization that we love to work with. And then finally, we partnered with a larger urban farm to provide some of the fresh produce and that we use in the recipes. So essentially, any child who signs up has the ability to get a starter kit. And the very first month that they enroll, which it is a series throughout the growing season, so I believe it's, don't quote me on this because it's no longer part of my department, but I believe it's from May or June until October. And they receive a package and they can pick it up at whatever location they prefer. They can select any of our 8 locations. And they get in their first packet a starter kit, a starter to create their own kitchen. So they get measuring cups, they get measuring spoons, and these things are provided by Urban Seeds. And they get cooking, like cookware, mixing bowls, anything they need to create the recipe for that month and the coming months for that year. From the library, they get a book which somehow ties to the recipe. For example, a few years ago, we did Cora Cook's Pancit, And it's a story about a girl and her mom who work together to cook up a recipe for the family. And it's essentially a beautiful, beautiful story if you haven't read it, but it's a celebration of Filipino heritage and food culture. So they read the book and then they came together and they cooked pancit together. Definitely a simplified version, but it was still delicious. So essentially what happens is they get that packet, they receive a Zoom link, and on Saturday morning, everybody Zooms in together and they watch our partners with Urban Seed cook the recipe. It's very participatory. They have the ability to ask questions. They can show their creations on the screen, and it is just it's so beautiful to be able to see these kids getting excited about cooking, getting excited about learning about food, different ways that you can use produce, safe cooking methods, and all that kind of thing. So this is a program that we have now been doing for, I believe, 3 years, and it has just grown since. And I believe that it'll be a program for years to come. The next one I want to talk about is Library Day. And Library Day is a cross-promotional event that we partner with a local nature preserve called Westmoreland Woods. And it's a day of fun and learning. And both partners have the opportunity to showcase their various talents and expertise through different activities. So it might be a nature walk, it might be animal encounters, it might be a story time with one of our staff, or a craft or activity that's themed around the day. So let's say we know that the animal encounter is going to be Artemis the owl. So we'll do maybe some stories around owls or other winged creatures, and then they get to meet one. And then the activity might be, drawing your own or creating like a little craft around it, or maybe your own bird feeder. So everything is around a theme, and it's all celebrated together with the various components of our shared organizations. And this has also been something that we've done over the past 3 years. And we used to do it annually, but because it was such a big hit, we're actually doing it 2 times a year. And we've started considering incorporating it at other organizations as well. So one of the things we're looking at is maybe partnering with our local zoo and doing a library day at the zoo. I forgot to mention one very important part of it. So if you show your library card, you get in free. If you don't have a library card, because we host it at the woods, if you don't have a library card, we have a table right there where you can sign up for a library card and still get in for free. So it's beautiful because we have loyal library participants who may not know about the woods, and this is their first time experiencing it, but they're going because, hey, they get to go in and get in for free. Or it might be the other way around. They have a loyal base and they see that the library is coming and they're like, oh, what fun stuff are they going to do? And they see the cool resources that we have available and they say, you know what, I'm going to sign up for a library card now. So great, perfect example of a cross-promotional opportunity. And then community resource guide. So like I mentioned, we're an 8-location department or 8-location system. But our central library is located in our downtown area, where that's where our public transit is housed out of, and that's where a lot of community resources, our civic buildings, and that kind of thing are located. So we see a very large population of transient and homeless populations who stop in for various different questions regarding basic needs. I don't know where I'm going to get my next meal, or I need help paying for my meals. I need a bed tonight, or I can't afford regular housing. Where is there a place where I can get long-term housing? So these are questions that we have collected over the years based off of what reference questions we get at our central location, and then we create this resource guide. It is an iterative document. We have a committee that is dedicated to making sure that we check it regularly and make sure the contact information is up to date. And we're also collecting new organizations that either we might not have been aware of or are brand new. So it's continuing to reflect what needs the community are coming in and asking for. And then finally, resource fairs. We probably all know the beauty of resource fairs, but a couple of years ago, one of my colleagues came to me and said, we go to all of these resource fairs that other organizations put on. Why don't we put on our own? I don't know. That sounds like a fabulous idea. Let's give it a try. And some of you might do this, and good on you for doing it. Because again, one of the greatest assets of public libraries is that we are the connectors to the resources. Sometimes, like I said, we fall for wanting to be the be all end all. We want to have all of the answers and we want to have it right there. But we have to remember that we're not always the experts, but we can be the connectors to the experts. So one of the greatest ways to do that is to host a resource fair, whether it's here, whether it's in a public park, or at a large facility that one of the partner organizations has access to, and we bring them all together, and it's a one-stop shop for our communities. I'll make sure I haven't forgot anything in my notes. Okay, it all looks good. And I do see, do we have some questions, Beth?
Yeah, you had two questions. I think they're both about the Book and Cook program.
Awesome.
Um,
Yeah.
one person wondered, did you say that was an online event?
Yes, it is an online event. And it's funny because it actually started necessarily as an online event because we started it during COVID. And well, I guess that means we've been doing it for 4 years now. But we started it during COVID. So the virtual aspect was necessary at the time. But it was so successful and it was so, we learned, we actually took a poll after the first year to gauge the participants to see if they appreciated having it in their own homes or if they preferred to come together at a location to do it together. And overwhelmingly, they all said they liked the virtual aspect. They liked being able to log on. They liked being able to be in the safety of their own homes. And one of the greatest advantages of it is that they were bringing their siblings together. And like you would see four kids and a parent cooking together in the kitchen, and it was beautiful. So yes, it is an online event, and we actually do record them. So if you, let's say, have some sort of family emergency or you forget that you have a commitment that Saturday morning, you get a link to the recording so you can do it later at your own pace. You miss out on the participatory aspect, but you still get to watch other people participate.
Yeah, and you probably get to participate with your own family either way, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
that's great. The other person wondered if you could send information about the cooking program. I don't know if you have more info that you'd be able to share
Yeah.
out in some way.
Yeah. Let me make a note of that. And is there a way that we can send out stuff to the participants?
Yeah, if it's something you can send to me, then I can certainly send it out, maybe with the recording and or
Okay.
post it
Yeah.
with the recording.
Happily.
Great, thank you. And we had another question come in
Beautiful.
actually. They're wondering, do resource fairs have a specific focus, such as new mothers or senior services, or just kind of anything across the board?
Great question. Yes and no. Sometimes they are overarching, but more often than not, we recognize that it's better if it has a focus. And it's better if it has a focus around a basically a trending issue at the time or a current thing. So sadly, several years ago, we learned that our area had like third highest in infant mortality rate in our community. And so, of course, a lot of community organizations came together around how can we rectify this? And so you automatically saw a lot of resource fairs popping up about this subject matter. So we found that those were more attended when there is a specific focus. But that doesn't mean that you can't facilitate a successful general audience either. It's important to look and to like if you're hosting it and you know already that you have some community partners that definitely want to be involved and they're great facilitators or organizers, gauge their, get their input too. See what kind of questions the community is out there asking, or what needs they're asking for by the community organization or to the other community organizations. They're out there, they're boots on the ground. They're going to have a really good idea of what the emerging needs in the community are. So if you just have a general idea that you want to host a resource fair, awesome. Reach out to those community partners and say, are there particular issues going on right now that we could build a theme around? So one of the examples for us here in Evansville is that we have a very fast growing Hispanic population, Latinx population, and Haitian Creole population. So we decided that we wanted to host a resource fair that was specific to the needs of those communities. So we would have the consulate, we would have the local school system with translators, healthcare companies, anything that had to do with where they might need additional assistance with either the language or the culture barrier to getting access to those resources. And that has been a hugely successful partnership. Sadly, this past year, we had to adjust it a little bit because we were getting, our community partners were sharing concern that there might be safety issues with coming together and promoting something specific for new Americans and new American families. So we adjusted the language, and but we still were very specific about who we were promoting it to. And so instead of doing a Latino Resource Day, we did a Children's Day celebration. And there were a couple of reasons why we did this, because most of the families that would come, or most of the attendees of these Latino Resource Days were families. So what do these families have in common? They all have kids and they all want resources and success for their kids. So let's do a Kids Day celebration. And we did it at a park in our community where, thanks to talking to our established community partners, we know that that is a recognized safe space for them. That very specific public park is somewhere where they go to have fun together and to, meet with other families. So that is where we housed it, and it was a great success. I know I more than answered your question, but that's a really good example of utilizing the experiences and the knowledge of your community partners to make sure that you're creating something that is very specific to the needs at the time.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Mhm.
There's one more question has popped up, and they're
Yay!
basically wondering, how do you get attendance counts for things like the fairs and, where there's large numbers of people?
Good question. When we first started out, we used primitive pen and pencil scratch marks. We purchased a set of clickers, and at each and basically we set it up intentionally. We set the resource fair up intentionally to where the main focal point or the first access point is the library's table. And we have someone right there dedicated with that clicker, and they're clicking every single person that comes in. Of course, it's not perfect. Of course, we're going to miss some, or we're going to duplicate some that leave and come back. But we've recognized that that's the easiest way to handle it. There are other ways that you can do it. One of the things that we used in the past was everyone who left, as they were leaving, they received a little survey card, and we got attendance based on how many people filled out the survey card. That's definitely not the most accurate because, a lot of people just threw those right in the trash. And we recognized the first year that we used that method how inaccurate that method was. So we added an incentive piece, and anyone who filled out the survey got entered in to win a really cool prize. So there are different ways that you can do it, and if that's something that you want to learn more about or learn what ways we've tried and tested, I'm happy to share that information too.
Great, thanks. I think that's it for the moment.
All right, beautiful. Well, I think I've just got one more, so hopefully we can knock it out in 5 minutes. And then we can do questions if there are any more. So, outstanding programs and services, we have learned, are only as good as the tracking processes put in place to ensure that they continue to be a success. So, we have made fabulous connections in our community and we create fabulous partnerships, but without a process to track and document them across locations, we risk a couple of things happening. Some of those things include duplicated effort across as people start to work in silos and aren't communicating the shared efforts across the organizations or even across the people. Even if you're a one branch location, if you have multiple people doing outreach, um, if you don't have a system for tracking it all together, you're going to end up working in silos. It's just human nature. So you risk duplication of effort that way, and you duplicate overlapping with organizations. So since we are somewhat larger, one of the things that started happening at EVPL was we had a location staff doing something really great with a organization. And then another location got the idea that they wanted to work with that organization too. But they just went ahead and reached out and started asking these questions. And the organization, the potential partner organization, said, we're already working with you. So that doesn't look really good when one hand doesn't know what the other is doing. So that's another really good reason to have processes in place to keep it all together. So this is a list of some of the documents that we use. We have an events calendar, and it is a Google spreadsheet that anyone in any position at any location at EVPL can access. Not edit, because that would give me a heart attack. But anybody can look at it and see what all those crazy outreach people are doing in the community. And it's their ability to see where we still need help. So in fact, I'm just going to go ahead and bring it up so you all can get an idea of what I'm talking about. I'm a visual person. I don't know if you guys are too. So I knew this was going to happen, Beth. Of course, I lost it. Hold, please. And you can probably see, let me know, Beth, if you can see the calendar.
Yep, we can see.
Okay, beautiful.
Yep.
Awesome. Let me go ahead and just go to this month. So we have nice and big at the top. To sign up for an outreach event, please contact Christina S. or Katie R. So that is either me or our outreach librarian. No one can just come in here and put themselves on literacy on the lawn. Yeah, I want to go with Hannah and Lanita to literacy on their lawn. I'm signed up. No. We want to know you're signing up so that we can give you any other relevant information you might need or whether or not it's a good fit for you. If we're showing up and we're expected to do a particular activity, we want to make sure that anyone signing up is equipped with the skills and the resources necessary to do it. So they have the ability to come in here. Oh, look, it's happening on that day at this location with this community organization. What are we expected to do? Okay, picnic and reading activities. Beautiful. You can see what the time frame of the event is and also what the allotted staff expectation time is as well, because we want to make sure that they're factoring in travel time, setup time, and the inside or the end of that too. So this I won't lie, it took a little while, a couple months for people to actually start going to this and start using it. But now that they do, it's provided a really great a method for which to me not to have to micromanage. I do not like micromanaging. So they can just look at this, see what they're interested in, email us, and sign up. On the flip side of that is an engagement form. And this is a Google form that staff completes after any outreach event that they are the main point of person for. So this is a simple list of questions saying, where did you go? Who did you partner with? How many people did you see? What was the target audience? And did you sign up any people for library cards? And any additional comments that might be relevant to us. That way, again, I don't have to micromanage. And anybody who does a library or an outreach event can simply put this in here. It goes to a response sheet, and we can track our statistics very easily that way. It's also a great way to compile any important or relevant information. They can put in there that maybe that event wasn't a good fit, and they can put that note in there, was not a good fit, so that we have that information next year or the next time a similar event comes up to maybe look at that more intentionally and say that's not a good use of our time. Then I also have a map for those visual people.
And
This
before
is
you, Katie, before you go there, we did have a
yes.
question, actually a
Oh,
couple
yes.
people asking about the outreach events calendar you were just showing. Is there a way, people are very interested in learning more about that. Is there a
Awesome.
way
Awesome.
to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
share, since it looks like that was a Google sheet, like
Yes.
maybe make a blank copy and
Okay.
make it uneditable and people can make copies for their own.
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk more about that, but is there a way to make it available in some
Yeah.
way
I've
as a
actually shared.
sample?
Oh, sorry. I thought you were done.
Oh,
I've
no.
I've shared the basically the template with others before. So yeah, I'm happy to do that. But I will say, make it, adjust it to what's best for you.
Mm,
We have a ton of columns on there. One of the columns is, does an outreach vehicle need to be reserved? If you don't have an outreach vehicle, obviously you don't need that column. But we also have a column that says whether or not it was put in a calendar that, if you don't have that calendar, you don't need that column. So make sure that when you look at it, I want to share the resources, but I want you to be aware that, one size does not fit all organizations.
right. They will have to tweak them for sure.
Absolutely,
Or even if
absolutely.
they can use them as a model, I think they
Mm-hmm.
appreciate that.
Certainly. Yep.
Someone's also asking if you can share the engagement form questions.
Mm-hmm.
That's a shareable thing as well.
Yes.
They all say, thank you so much.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay.
All right. And then, so this map is great for a couple of reasons. It's another way that location staff can get a visual idea of where all we are reaching in the community, but it's also great for stakeholders. Whenever, let's say at a board meeting, they're looking at potentially starting an outreach program. And that takes a lot of, and I know because I argued for one and then they put me in charge of it. So careful what you're asked for, first of all, but it's nice to be able to visually show your stakeholders all of the effort and all of the time, basically the result of that. I've showed this with our board of directors, and they were dumbfounded by all the places we go. But the only reason we're able to go to all of these places is because we have a process to make it expandable. So as you can see, there's different layers. We have a current outreach layer, which shows everywhere we have a current partnership with. We also keep track of older partnerships that we recently had, like within the past 1 to 2 years, but we also have one that's much older. And the reason that these are important are that sometimes relationships don't work, and that's okay. Maybe they didn't work because the partner organization didn't have a good communication style, or they were just, for whatever reason, it wasn't a good fit because there wasn't good reciprocity. This is fabulous because let's say they go through a management switch or they just completely there's a complete overhaul. That may now be a really good opportunity for you to come in and start a good relationship. And the reason we keep it from 2 years or more to 1 to 2 years is because that gives us a better idea of how long it's been since we worked with them. What are the odds that the same organizers are still working at that location? Or even if they are still working at that location, do they have the memory of how they, collaborated with us in the past? So we also have some other ways to make it more visually appealing. We have a layer that shows where all of our schools are. We have a layer that shows kind of different like boundaries. Where did that go? I lost it. But basically, this is another thing where just like the calendar, adjust it to how you see it best working for you. So if you think that the better way to utilize these layers are to organize them by what type of organization you're partnering with, great. If you want to just keep the school partnerships that you have on one side, awesome. Make it work for you. Again, this is a great way to visually look at it, but not everyone are visual learners. So we have a companion to it, which is the last component there, and it is a spreadsheet. And it has all of the information that the map has, but in list form and to a much more depth. So on here, you can see what organization we worked with, what type of organization it is, who the target population is, what we did when we showed up, who the library staff member was, the point of contact, so we can reach out to them to get more information, and last date of interaction. So we can find out really how recently we were working with them and additional notes. So that is the Touchpoint Companion. And I will say there are other pieces that we use, but these are the foundation that basically the core pieces that I have recognized managing all of this are the really basically the success factors. These, I cannot imagine running this department without these 4 features. All right. We made it to the end and we still have 11 minutes. Yay.
Awesome. Someone is asking how easy it was to learn how to create that touch point map.
um, don't be the only one making it. I will give you that advice because I started this map before I actually used this map as one of the pieces of justification for creating a separate department. But I started it probably about 5 years ago. And it has seen many different iterations. When I created it, it did not look this pretty. I I went I'm neurodivergent, so the way that I understand and the way I look at and process things is very different from what other people might. So I was using the different icons, the different color coding in the way that made sense to me. But when I got an outreach librarian, she very kindly and diplomatically shared with me that not everybody's, actually, most people's brains don't work this way. So she helped me kind of reorganize the way that I use the different components. When I first built it, we didn't have near, obviously, the number of organizations that we work with listed here. And I didn't have the same layers. I had it organized a different way, but we have changed it and adjusted it as we have gone on because we've recognized that a certain way fits another way. So to give a specific amount of time of how long it took to create this, or how easy, how hard it is, you can make it as simple or as complex as you want it to. But I can't really tell you how long it took to make because it's gone through so many iterations. I know that's not really a a good answer, but
I
oh
think
wow,
that
we have a
was a
lot of
fine
questions.
answer. So we had a few more questions. Someone was
Oh,
wondering if you have an ask letter that you are only requesting help from a community partner to fund a library idea, financial support only.
oh no, that's no, we don't. Um, we have a a spot on our website where people can, let me just show it to you really quick. You can request outreach, request EVPL outreach, and it's a form basically based off of whether it's a one-time event or a recurring service. If that's something that your library gets a lot of asks for, I would see that fitting within this request form process. But yeah, I'm sorry I don't have any more feedback for you on that.
Yeah, I wonder if like library administrations might be more likely to be the ones to, but although for summer reading, I know staff are probably sending out financial requests. So I'm not sure.
Gotcha. And that might be something that is, uh, I've learned that when you're talking about money, it's more, uh, well, A, you get more yeses, and B, it's easier to identify the ask if it's an in-person conversation, but that's just my style.
Mm,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Um, Someone was asking if, well, I think it's a general question for the chat, but if EVPL has done this, has anyone partnered with a local airport? And do you
Yes,
have an
we
idea?
actually have something called Second Saturday Stories,
Ah,
where every second Saturday we have story time at the airport. And more often than not, it's some sort of like aviation themed or some kind of thing like that. But there's always a story time and a craft component to it.
that's
But
awesome.
yeah, I'd love to hear if other libraries do something similar.
And we have one other question so far, anyway. Someone's wondering, how far out into your community do you reach?
Good question. I will go back to my touch point map here and zoom out. Okay, so this thin black line is our county barrier, and we are, our designation is by Vanderburgh County. So we do our best to stay within these limits. There are some instances where we will go just outside of it because the location of the event or the partner organization geographically sits outside, but they serve a large portion of Vanderburgh County residents. So we will make accommodations for there. If someone were to know nothing about Evansville or Vanderburgh County, they might look at this and go, wow, why aren't you doing more in the northern part of the community? Well, I'll tell you why. The vast majority of this is farmland. People don't live out there, or there aren't community organizations or schools or things like that in those areas. So I will say that the caveat to this is it just geographically shows where the partner organization is housed. It doesn't show the reach of the residents that you're serving. So yeah, I would say that the farthest we travel from here down at Central in our downtown area to the partner organization, usually no more than like 25 minutes to a half-hour drive.
Great. Real quick, I just want to mention that I've put the LEU request form in the chat for those of you attending live today. So do go to that form and fill that out here when we are done and get that done as soon as possible. And I will send you your LEU certificate. Also, yes, if you missed it at the beginning, we are recording and I will send the recording out. That takes up to 30 days, but usually much less. So just FYI. And we have one more question.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, we've got somebody from a very small rural library. Their county
Okay.
seat is 15 minutes away. Next largest city is 35 minutes away in a different county. They're an hour from a very large city. How do you avoid asking the same people, or how far away do you ask help from
Mm.
if you're in a situation like that? Do you have any advice or thoughts?
So I love this question because it's a very complex question, and those are my favorite. So the way I would provide advice would depend on a couple of other factors. One being, do you have an outreach vehicle or a bookmobile? Do you have, how do you avoid asking the same people or how far away? Um, how, yeah, that's one I would have to think on. Who is this? Julie Canada. I'm gonna put my email in the chat. Julie, please reach out to me, and I would love to get more information from you on some of these other questions I would have to know in order to give you the best advice.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would also just point out, of course, outreach is going to look very different at different libraries and in different communities. So maybe for smaller, more rural libraries, it's more focused on schools and daycares. And if you've got other organizations or churches that provide certain services in your community, um, yeah, it's hard. I'm sure you don't want to reach out to the same people all the time. But you also, if you've established relationships with those folks in your community, which sometimes it's a little easier to do in a smaller community, because you're just naturally interacting with a lot of those people more,
Right.
maybe that would help.
And I would recommend having something similar to the Touchpoint Companion that allows you to track who you spoke to from what organization and when. Because that way you're not relying on your human memory to remember that.
Mm,
Um, that has been very helpful to us in the past. So even having a simplified version of this could help you out there.
yeah, absolutely. All right. I don't see any other questions. Shall we call it?
I
Thank
think so.
you so much, Katie. This was really,
Yes.
really wonderful. So much great information. Um, I'll get with Katie and we'll talk about just how much of this she's able to share out and
Yeah.
everything that we can share, I will share. Like I said, I'll send it along with the recording and I will post as much as possible to our recorded website page as well. So thank you, Katie. I'm going to
Thank
stop
you,
the
Beth.
recording.
Oh,